Hi everyone, I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 151 with Kim. Okay, I read Love in the Archives by Eileen Vorbach Collins, and my Kindle was being goofy, so I haven't shared. I read this a month or so ago, and Eileen's book is about the death by suicide of her daughter Lydia and the grief surrounding that, but it's also about lots of other beautiful thoughts about grief and living our lives. And it was gorgeous, and I loved it, and Sarah loved it, and so I just wanted to share that. Just took me a while because my Kindle was being silly. So Kim, I'm going to try to add you. Wearing another tie dye. Apparently, I tie dyed last week, and you're getting to see the work that I did, and yeah, it worked. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
I want to tell you, so many people are telling me what a wonderful person you are. So I wanted to let you know, like, oh, I'm looking forward to this conversation. Kim is so great. So I just wanted
Oh
to
my
that
goodness.
you have fans.
Well, thank
So,
you.
hmm
Gosh, that's a lovely thing to hear
yeah,
on a Wednesday.
yeah. So, it's great to have you here. We've never met, so this is our
That's right.
first interaction. I've read your poem though, and it's beautiful, and I'm excited to hear you read it. Um, See, Sarah loves you. She's in the comments telling.
Sarah's one of my favorites for sure.
I yeah, she is so enthusiastic and supportive, and I sent her a text yesterday just saying that very thing because she's just it's wonderful. So
She is. It's a gift
yeah,
with her, I think.
yeah, it's really sweet. So I'm reading a book she sent me right
Oh,
now.
perfect.
hmm
I love that.
Yeah. And we have sibling loss in common, Sarah and I. So
Okay.
that's how we originally were connected because
Interesting.
her sister Mindy died and my brother Michael died. So
Okay.
yeah.
How did you get started doing these, by the way? Somehow I don't recall hearing the origin story of these.
The origin story briefly is I was in a workshop with Janine Ouellette a few years ago, and we did this prompt, and we went into breakout. It was during COVID, and we went into breakout rooms, and I was with someone I already knew, Amy Rogers, and so we didn't do a lot of the poem, and we came back, and people were sharing their poems, and I was just blown away by them and what people were able to do in such a short time, um, and then I was like, I wonder if anyone would like to join me and share their poems because I have always liked hearing people's stories and
Yes.
have believed my whole life that everyone has one.
Yes.
Um, so it was like, wow, this is a really cool container for people to share their stories. And I am particularly interested, I think, in childhood because I spent so much of my life trying to get over it
Yeah.
and realized, probably over the past 8 years since I've been doing EMDR and trauma therapy that like you don't get over it. And that's not the goal. Actually, the goal is to like make it a part of who you are and not have
Yes.
it be this separate thing, which is what I had done, just kind of put it away because it was gross and confusing and
Mm-hmm.
icky and I don't want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So uh hi Rebecca. She's another person who was singing your
Yeah.
praises, Kim.
Yes, I just watched hers with you last week. I love Rebecca. We're going to get to see each other here in a couple of weeks.
Again, because you
Yes.
saw each other, I saw on
Yeah.
social media, you saw each
Yeah.
other
Yep.
recently.
She was in Seattle, and now actually Sarah and I are going to meet her on the East Coast.
Oh,
So,
that's so sweet.
yeah.
I love that. Um, I hope I'm going to be at AWP, so I'm hoping to meet a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
people because it's in Los Angeles, so I don't have an excuse not to go.
I love
Because
it.
if there was an excuse, I would use it
Yes.
because I'm a little overwhelmed by all the people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, but I'm hoping it'll be
I've heard it's
manageable
wonderful.
because I live here, so I can
Yes.
like escape, if
Yep.
I
You
need
can
to.
deregulate yourself, and yeah.
Well, if you came to AWP, it'd be wonderful to meet you in real life, and I'll meet you, Rebecca. Yeah, I know I'm going to meet. I'm excited to meet so many people, and I'm just going to try to focus on that and not the overwhelm that I feel. Um,
Yes.
So anyway, that's the brief story, Kim, and it's just been such a gift to me,
I
like
love it.
to have a reason to ask people about their childhoods because it's not something we really can do socially. And also, I like the sort of container because it doesn't become like a, because I am a person that people share their things with, and
Yes.
sometimes it can get overwhelming where it's like, oh, okay, therapist.
Yes. Yes. So you're
This
right.
is a good amount. This is a good
This is
amount.
a great container for it, and it almost detaches it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
instead of telling you my
yeah.
story like I'm telling a therapist, I've written something that
Right.
describes my story. So it just has that degree of separation,
Yeah,
which is
it's true.
good.
It's true. I think and you and yeah, and you do the writer does some sifting of the material, the where
Yes.
it's not just like the most raw thing. And I think sometimes because I've had different experiences than when people have had those two, then we can get at a space where
Yes.
it can be a lot. And so this is nice because the person who's the guest is takes the lead. It's not
That's
me
great.
saying, "Hey, here's some crappy things,"
Yes. Yes. That's a good thing.
and joyful things too. I mean, and I think they're all there together, but it's nice to just accept whatever comes and not
Yeah.
try to force anything.
I like that. That's good.
Okay, so that's my intro. Kim,
That's a good one.
how did you find me? I don't remember.
So I actually wrote this poem back, I think it was last winter
Hmm.
sometime. I can't remember. It was a writing prompt for a poetry publication on Medium.
Oh, cool.
And I edit within that publication. I don't edit that particular pub because I'm not a poetry person. I'd
Hmm.
never written poetry before.
Right.
And this prompt came up, and I, of course, in the Slack channel was like, yeah, I won't be doing that because I'm not a poet. I don't do poetry kind of thing. And then I read a couple of them, and I was like, oh, wow, these are really beautiful. And the team was like, you need to do it. You need to do it. And
Oh.
so it's my first poem ever. And if you're a writer, I can't encourage you enough
Mm.
to do this as an exercise because it really sealed for me what it means to show rather than
Mm,
tell
for sure.
in our writing. And
Yeah.
as we describe the imagery around whatever it is that we're telling here, it just was such a beautiful experience to go through and to just really kind of come to grips with it. So many times we hear as writers, show, don't tell, show, don't
Yes.
tell. And I wasn't sure that, I mean, I kind of understood what that meant, but when I
Sure.
did this, I really got it. Like
Hmm.
the ability to paint a picture with scenes and feelings, things that evoke feelings,
Hmm.
rather than just saying what happened. Like rather than saying, my mom didn't do a great job of being a mom, and so I had to stay at my grandmother's,
Hmm.
and she was a great person for me. Like that's kind of, we hear that we hear that story or something similar fairly regularly. But when you can describe that
Hmm.
in these scenes that kind of bring up the emotion of it, I just think it's really beautiful.
I
And
think that
so
is so true.
I didn't answer your question. Sorry, in
Oh,
true
that's okay, but I actually really like that
ADHD.
answer because I feel it has been only wonderful for my writing to
Good.
listen to these week after week, and it's like in me now. This I will read my writing and think, oh, this needs some, like, I need more details. It needs more sensory details, which, like you say,
Yes.
you've heard it a lot of times, but seeing it in action and seeing then at the end of the poem, usually there is some kind of takeaway
Yes.
after we've grounded ourselves in all these sensory details. There is usually a takeaway
Yep.
that is the telling,
Yes.
which in memoir is important to do some telling, and you
Yes.
see that with the poems.
Yep. So my first exposure to you was when Jocelyn was on, and her last name is escaping me in this
Fox.
minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I saw her kind of advertise that she was going to do it in our writers group, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wrote a poem like that. I wonder if it's the same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
surely it's not the same thing." And then I
And it
went and
is.
I was like, "It is the same thing." And then I just kind of sat on it for a while. And then I think I watched a few others of
Mm-hmm.
yours. And at some point, I think you said, like, if you've got
Mm-hmm.
where I'm from poem, feel free to reach out to me, whatever.
Yes.
And so then I reached out to you, and that's how I got
Oh,
connected
that's
with
so
you.
cool. I love that. Yes, I mean, it's we're open to all. Like I mean, I am so it's such a fun way to meet people.
Yes.
Like I have a good mix of people I know and people I don't. It's fun. So each week it's a different thing to look forward to. So,
Yeah, I
mhm.
love that. I would have a lot of fun with it too if I was you. I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah, it's and I mean I've met and now I'm friends with Georgia Lyon, which was a not something I ever
Wow.
planned or whatever, but that is a bonus.
That
She's a
is a
lovely,
bonus. Wow.
wonderful, generous, funny person.
I love
So,
it. Well,
yeah.
she has inspired a lot of
Hasn't
people.
she?
Hmm.
I mean, and once I met her, I saw that I see why
Oh,
because she's such
very
a
nice.
generous, like I said, I just said generous twice, but she is, and I think it takes a person like that for somebody to make a prompt of your poem, like to for her, like I think right from the beginning, she had no, I don't know, like she wasn't grasping with what she created. Like she was happy to let it go into the world
That's
and find its
beautiful.
way. And you need, I think, that kind of spirit for something like that to
Yeah,
happen,
that's
you
beautiful.
know?
Hmm.
Yeah. So if you're watching that, that's Georgella, because she does often watch them.
Thank
Hugs.
you to
Yeah.
her. Yes,
um, okay. Would you like to read your poem?
I would love to. Let me see if I can do this with holding my
Oh,
phone
yes. That's
well.
a little, yep.
That's a little bit of
Yeah.
a toughie, but that's probably about as good as it's going to get right there.
Okay.
Okay. I am from a language spoken that isn't my own, and from stories of an old country I dreamed of seeing. I am from Slavonian festivals and special celebrations where dancers performed in brightly colored costumes. I am from a backyard more garden than grass, where a Gravenstein apple tree stood tall as the sky, but not too tall for my grandfather to reach. I smiled when he picked the juiciest apple for me. I am from a house that smelled of purple grapes stacked to the basement ceiling. I am from a cellar with a wine room where large wooden barrels held crushed grapes fermenting. I am from a kitchen with a drawer full of flour, not kept in bags, but piled high like snowdrifts, silky smooth and bright white, with a single mixing cup haphazardly in the middle. I am from her hands that kneaded the bright white flour into plump mounds of sweet smelling dough that she kneaded gently and then left to rest, and from the scent of yeasty dough and the taste of salty butter. I am from afternoon coffee in elegant china cups, with creamy, warm milk and something sweet on my plate. I am from pungent spaghetti sauce simmering for hours and fresh, pillowy gnocchi boiling on the stove. I am from delicately embroidered, crisp percale sheets, warmed at night by a big rubber hot water bottle. I am from the back room that gently shook when trains passed by, the room where I felt safe and loved and protected. I am from a brave and kind Croatian woman whose old country I visited not long ago with my mother. I am from a grandmother who loved me deeply and whose connection I feel even as I love my grandson. Thank you.
Oh, that was so full of love. Um, I was really struck by all of the care your grandparents showed you and the world. Like those are just really sweet. Oh, the percale sheets in the water.
Yes.
Ah, that's an
Oh my
old
gosh.
school kind of
It
thing. I
is.
think my great aunt did that for my mother.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Those big
yeah.
red
Yep.
rubber water bottles with like
Yeah.
screw on
Hmm.
rubber cap. Yeah.
We had one of those. I don't remember using it, but I do remember it
Yes.
existing.
Yes. Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, and I mean, so much of the natural world, too.
Yes. Yes. And I think my grandparents' house was very sensory for me. Like there was a lot going on in that way, from the wine fermenting to the
Hmm.
cooking to the making of bread, all of those things.
Yeah, the making of bread. I have never done it, been good at it. To me, it's one of those, like, I don't know, it's sort of symbolic of something you do. You have to do it so many times to get good at
I
it.
agree.
But then once it's in you,
Hmm.
like, and I feel like, we all have things like that, in
Yes.
us. And, it's a fun thing to reflect on. What are our things that are like that,
Yes.
um, that live in us that we're not even conscious of oftentimes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think bread making is very much that way. It was such a
Mhm.
part of who my grandmother was.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, she'd
it's
adore a
funny.
flower.
Yeah, so many people commented on that when I published my poem.
Oh, Micah's
That
making
was
bread right now.
that
That's
was
so
the thing.
sweet.
Yeah,
Do you
oh,
see?
that is sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that a couple of other people said, oh my gosh, my grandmother had a bread drawer
Mm-hmm.
like that too, that
Mm-hmm.
had, it's like lined in tin and you just
Mm-hmm.
throw the
Yes.
flour right in
Yes,
it.
I do.
So, yeah.
I didn't have grandparents like this, so I always am fascinated. My husband um, did, and they were very kind to me
Mm,
when I met them, and it was nice to have the experience to see, like, oh, this is what is possible.
yes. Yeah, my grandfather died when I was quite young, but
Mm-hmm.
and what's funny, the whole Gravenstein apple tree, like I remember him being just a giant and reaching up to get apples, but he was really like 5'5". So
Sure,
he was like
because
not
you were a
tall, but
child. Hmm.
yeah, it's just interesting that way. But I know my grandmother was super strict with my mom, and I heard stories of my mother complaining about how uh, strict my grandmother was, and she was gruff and whatever, and she was the opposite with
Mm-hmm.
me. Like she was so, again, the hot water bottle in the bed and all that stuff. So it was just a wonderful refuge of a place to be able to go.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. With also our relationship with our grandparents, as I have observed,
Yes,
is is not as fraught.
yes,
Like they don't have the same kind of, I don't know, power over us that are, or that kind of, I don't know. They're easier, I think, to brush off if we don't agree with them. They're our grandparents,
yes,
or parents. It's much more challenging. So.
right. And the flip side is true. Like I have so enjoyed loving my grandson.
Mm,
It's this like wild and free kind
yeah.
of love that I didn't have with my kids,
No, you
right?
have
Like
to
I
put them to
totally loved
bed,
them, but
and I mean,
right. And you worried
I
about them.
mean,
I mean, I still
yes,
worry about them, and they're,
yes,
two of my kids are in their 30s and
yeah,
my youngest is 27, and not a day goes by that I'm not
yeah,
worried about something for
yeah.
them. But with my grandson, it's just like pure joy. I don't have that weight of
Mm,
making sure he turns out a certain kind of way, or,
mhm.
what's going to happen when he gets into school. He's
Right.
4. It's just like this love that's like free of all those things that entangle us as parents. So
I think
it's
that's also
really
a really healthy way to look at it, because we also know there are grandparents who are involved too much and are like, well, that's not how I
yes,
did it, blah, 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 blah.
right.
And it's like, oh, no one cares.
No, exactly. Just like zip that.
Yeah, no one cares how you did it. So I think that's a really healthy relationship, and one I hope to have if I have grandchildren, like where it's
Yes.
just added joy. It's like
Hmm.
bonus joy time, like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
that's my hope. No pressure, kids. I'm also not going to be one of those who's like, give me grandkids.
Yeah,
It's like,
same.
that's
I
not
was not going to be that.
no,
Yeah,
because that always kind of makes me uncomfortable. Uh,
same. Yeah,
it's like you can't force people
no.
to have children. Um, so what was your experience like writing this poem? Once you got over that you weren't a poet and they encouraged slash bullied you enough to get you to write it.
Yes, that's exactly how it happened. It was a really emotional experience. Like there was the writer side where I was like, oh wow, I understand now how we show rather than tell.
Yeah.
But like I distinctly remember just sitting at my desk just weeping because I missed my grandmother so badly.
Oh.
Um, Yeah, it was just, I mean, even now, I've read this so many times this week and I've gotten through it multiple times without crying and been so proud of myself that I could read that with without crying.
This is a
Uh,
crying safe zone. I try
Thank
not
you.
to cry too much just because I don't want to make other people uncomfortable, but I'm perfectly comfortable with everyone crying because I think it can be very challenging to read our own writing
I
without,
think so too.
um,
I have a tendency to cry when I read my own writing, no matter what it's about. And I don't know what that is, but I guess
no,
it's
I know
pretty
what you mean.
vulnerable to do
Yeah,
that,
I
you
think
know?
it's vulnerable. I think also it's good. It makes you cry. Like there's a certain amount of me that's like, oh well,
True.
I hit what I'm trying to say because this is evoking something from me. Like if it's not evoking anything from me, I feel like maybe
Yeah.
I need to go a little
It
deeper,
really good?
or yeah,
Yeah,
or come at it from another angle.
I
Like
would agree.
I'm doing it the easy way, you know.
Yes, I would fully agree with that.
So I think when you cry, it's like, oh okay, I got
Yeah, if
something.
it's yeah, if
I got
it's
something.
touching me, then you have to believe it's going to touch somebody else as well.
Right. Yeah. So, so it was emotional. And
Yeah,
was it easy? Like, did you know you were going to write about your
I
grandparents, your grandmother?
I did, and that was part of my like. I wasn't going to write about my mother, like because
Right.
that poem, while there are good things that I got from my mother, um, decidedly that was not a great
Right.
experience. So I was, and then the gal that did the prompt was like, you can write about anybody. It doesn't have to be your mother. You can also write in somebody else's voice. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could write it as like one of my kids saying where
Mm-hmm.
I'm from or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, oh, I could easily write about my grandmother. So that's kind of how
What
that
was her name?
came about. Yerka.
Yerka.
Yeah.
And when did she pass?
Oh goodness,
Long
it's
time.
been a long time ago, like 28, 9 years, somewhere, maybe even a little bit longer than that. She lived till she was 95,
Way to go,
which is,
Yerka.
I know, isn't that just crazy?
It's good to have some people to admire and emulate as we age. I
Yes,
appreciate having people to look up to
yes.
who've done it
Actually, it
before.
was 30 years ago because my daughter, who just turned 30, was
Mm.
like 6 months old when my
Funny.
grandmother died. So
Funny how that
that's,
happens. I think that
yes,
happens quite often. It happened with our son and my husband's
that
grandmother.
is interesting.
I think she lived to see him.
That makes sense. That makes good
And then she was
sense.
like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah,
It's been a
I'm
wild
out.
ride. I'm good.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I hope I'm that way too. I have no desire to be just hanging on,
No,
for,
no, no, no.
yeah.
It's a gift to be able to do the things we love
Yeah.
until it's time to go.
I agree. Very much so.
Yeah. That's a goal of mine for sure.
I like it.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
will
and
have
my
a
things I
twin
love are
goal.
not downhill skiing, I mean, they're taking walks and reading books and being with people I love. Like they're very
Yes.
manageable as I
Those
age.
are
It's,
doable as you
yeah.
age. Yeah. I like that.
It's not like run a marathon or things I love. Like it's not, it's just being active and being able to engage with the world in a way that feels reciprocal.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Well, you can have it if you'd like.
Thank
It's
you.
just, I like to have goals and that's that I can articulate, and that's one for me. I've just been in terrible pain for 5.5 weeks because I
Yeah.
have
Nerve
nerve pain.
pain, you
Yeah,
said, right?
yeah, and it's starting. I'm starting to see like some light, and living like that only for that long was just not great. And it
Right.
gives me a more compassion for people who live with that kind of pain. And I will say, I think assisted suicide is something people should be allowed to
I
pursue if that's
I
something that
am
they
with
would like
you.
to do.
Yep.
Um, because living like that for years on end I can't even imagine
No.
how hopeless and obviously painful that is.
That's not living, really. It's
No,
just
and if they don't want
subsisting.
to live, it's their choice. I mean, like, who am I to say? It's not my life.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's in general my politics
I agree. Yep. I'm
when it's not
appreciative
hate.
to live most of the time in Washington State,
Yeah,
where things
yeah,
like that are well thought of, and we have opportunities for things like that.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, it just gave me, I already feel a lot of compassion for people, who are addicted to
Yeah.
painkillers and who live with pain. And I mean, but then having the experience of like, I want to scratch my skin off um, for real is not
Yeah.
So it just kind of makes you feel like, oh, a lot of people don't know what that feels like. And so it's
No.
easy for them to say, oh, just carry on, you know.
Hmm.
Um, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you know, you should not be speaking about that.
Right,
It's
right.
like single people talking about how you should parent your kids. It's like
Oh, but we're all
until
such
you
good
go
parents when
through
we're
that,
childless.
right. Exactly. Until you go through that, I would prefer not to hear your ideas about what I should do differently.
I wish I could wear like a sign of, or like indicate to people with children who are having a hard time with their little ones that I'm someone who's feeling compassion for them. Because you look over
Yes.
at them and you like want to say, "Oh no, I'm not judging you. I'm, I've been there."
Yes.
Like I am just like, "Oh, that's not my kid anymore,"
Right.
and you're gonna get to the other side. But they
Yes.
don't know when you look
Yep.
over. Like
And the other
they may
side is so,
assume the
so far
worst.
away when you're
Oh
at
God.
that age.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're so deep in it. And I remember one time one of our children like lost it in an airport, which happens, I think
Hmm.
a fair amount to
Yes.
people with children. And, people coming up to us and saying nasty things like, what is your problem? Like,
Right.
why are you just get out of here? I mean, I
Right.
actually said that to
It's
people.
just like, how do they
Like,
think that's
just get
making the
out of
situation
here.
better?
Yeah, I've got my
Oh.
hands full, as you can see.
Hmm.
Go.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to indicate with all situations, no, I'm feeling compassion for you. I'm not
Yes.
judging you because you can't
Yep.
really say it because that's weird. Um,
And chronic pain is a lot like that. Like
yeah,
if you really haven't been through that, you don't know how exhausting it is. You
yeah,
don't know how emotional it is to not
yeah,
get freedom from that,
yeah,
and how you start to feel desperate and
yeah,
all of those things.
yes. And you will
Fellow
take
chronic
anything
pain
or do
person here.
anything,
Hmm. Yes.
I was joking. Luckily, I have a good friend who's been there, so she was a great support and wonderful to talk to as I was, trying to take walks because they're like, get blood flowing, and you're like, okay. Um, but
Hmm.
you take something and it's like an M&M, it does nothing. Like something that normally would probably knock you out,
Right.
and it's just like, oh, that didn't, okay.
Hmm.
Like that feeling of, um, like, the world feels upside down, basically, is how I
Yes.
felt.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm a person who takes like one Advil, and it's like, what do you have?
Right. My motto is a little different than yours. I and my wife laughs at this because she is a very holistic health
Yeah.
driven
I mean,
person.
that's kind of me usually, but whatever.
Well, my motto is a better life through
Well,
pharmaceuticals. If there's something for that, just like pass it my way. I'm happy to take it. So,
well, my friend was joking that, because she also has chronic illness. So she's interacting with, and she's doing all the things, holistic, whatever. And
mhm,
she's just like medicine doesn't give us much for a lot of our issues. If they can help us with this, take the help. Take
yes,
whatever help you can get in whatever form you can get it in. And then you can decide if you want to continue or but you
right,
just need to sleep. You need to
yes,
sleep. You need to not be in pain.
yes,
Like those are your goals right now. And you know that when you're in pain, you can't think either. So that's also a fun challenge.
right. That is true. Yeah, there is no linear thinking
So
when
it's
you're in
really helpful
pain.
to have somebody just tell you what to do, who you care for and
Yes,
trust.
yes,
Do
absolutely.
this, do it now.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yep.
Okay. So, yeah, it's
I'm so
been
glad to hear
a
that
journey.
you're starting to get some relief and
Yeah.
heading in the other
Yeah.
direction with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they tell you 6 to 8 weeks and you're like, you're kidding, right?
6 to 8 weeks
But it's about to be
feels like an
6 weeks.
eternity.
It's
Oh
about
my
to be
goodness.
6 weeks. And that's about when, they're like, you start to feel some relief. And you're like,
Oh my
what do you
gosh.
mean? It
Wow.
can't be like this.
Yeah.
So, anyway, for anyone who's out there suffering, I hope you get some relief
Yes.
in any way. Suffering in any,
Right.
you're probably not watching this. You're probably watching dog videos. That's what I was watching.
Hmm.
Like I can't even engage. And that's also, I think, a real challenge when you're in pain or in chronic illness or you're depressed or it's so hard when you feel like your brain is no longer your brain. I think that's also really difficult.
Yes. I agree. And you need other people, but you don't have the capacity to make that happen. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
it's definitely difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say about the poem now that
I
we've
don't
had a treatise on
I
pain?
like
But,
it.
it's important.
Yes, I don't think so. This was just a lovely experience. I'm so happy. I was really excited to
I can
get to be able
tell.
to
No,
do this
it's
with
so
you.
sweet.
And yeah, so thank you so much for it's
Yeah.
almost like a little poem ministry that you have going
It
on.
does seem a bit
So,
like that. And it's so funny because, Kim, I feel exactly as you did. Like, I'm not a poet, I don't write poems. But as I interrogated that further, because now it's been, I don't know, it's coming, it's coming up on 3 years that I've been doing this. Um, I realized I did write poetry when I was younger, and I did love poetry and read poetry,
mm,
and people told me I wasn't a poet, and I believed them.
oh
And
my
it's like
gosh.
that kind of like, oh, geez, I really just let things go when I was younger because I didn't want to prove everyone right that I was like a bitch, right? So
Yeah,
I was just like, okay, you're right, I'm not a poet. So for me, it's also been like reclaiming that I'm a poet, but we're all poets,
that's good.
like
I really like that.
we all are. And I think poetry can get into places that other types of writing can't. And I it's there's a certain like freedom in it because you don't feel the pressure to write a full essay or a full book. You could just write a
Yes.
poem and it can access this piece of your story that may feel inaccessible in other ways. And
Yep.
I think it's I'm just grateful. I mean, I'm really grateful for this, and I made a point of doing it even when I was in pain because I knew it would be a thing that I could just be like, "Well, I did that."
I was so impressed that you were doing that when you were in the midst of your
Yeah.
nerve pain. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe she's
And then
doing
I'd get
this. So,
up and run around or do whatever, like just right when it would end, I would move my arm, whatever. But it was
yes,
just, I don't know, it felt important. It felt important to just continue with something.
well, that is commendable. And sometimes you just have to tell your body who's in charge, right?
Right. And you can
Like,
do it for a short time.
mm-hmm, exactly. Mm-hmm,
It's like, we're doing this,
yes.
and I let everyone
So
know
get
if
in
I'm,
line.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, this is possible. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it also tells your brain, okay, it will continue to be possible. You can
That's good.
like
Yeah, it's an encouragement.
yeah. So, well, thank you so much for reaching out. And I
Thank you.
want to use this as a time to encourage anyone who might be watching, please feel free to reach out if you have a poem you'd like to share. Um, this space is open to everyone, and I love it. And just thank you, Kim. This was wonderful. I'm glad
Thank
we met,
you.
and I hope we meet in real life at AWP or
I hope
somewhere.
so
Um,
too.
yeah, I need to probably do a where I'm from thing at AWP, but I don't know how to organize that. So if anyone's watching wants to,
Ooh,
I just
that would
think
be
it would
cool.
like an offsite thing. That's something I like, would be fun to do an offsite thing and have some people share their poems.
That would be really fun. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
I'll be getting online to check
Do it.
AWP
I knew
stuff
Sarah would
after
say
this.
that.
So, yeah, Sarah, she's so encouraging.
She is so encouraging. So, okay, Sarah, I'm putting it in my brain to do
There
it.
you go.
We'll see. Okay, well, thank you, Kim,
Thank
and thank you everyone who
you.
joined us.
And I would do
And
the heart thing
oh yeah,
that but I only have one hand. So you do it. There it is. I
oh,
just
that made
love
me so
that.
happy. Was I had no idea.
I
It's
didn't
so
either. It's just so cool. I was just stunned when I saw that last week.
I know. Thanks for reminding me because
Hmm.
I appreciate that. That was such a like I don't know. It was really fun too because it was 150. It felt like oh we've discovered this or
New thing that we
yeah
can do.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for joining
Thank
us, Sarah.
you for having me, and I hope you have a
I'm
good rest of your week.
saying that to Sarah.
Oh,
You're Kim, I know that, but Sarah just
Sarah.
said in the love this talk. Thanks you too. So I was saying thank you, Sarah,
Thank you,
but
Sarah.
thank you, Kim.
See you later.
Bye.